Of Katie Hannon's report. I'm joined in studio by Tommy Carr, former Dublin and Cavan football manager, by Liam Griffin, former All-Ireland winning Wexford hurling manager and former player, and Mark Duncan, GAA historian and former player for Kilmacud Crogs, an All-Ireland club medal winner and a Crogs selector. Tommy, let me quote you first of all, the outgoing GAA president, Christy Cooney, what he said about payments to managers. He says they are a cancer running through our organisation. What's your reaction to that? Do you agree with them?
No, I don't agree with him. I think it's a rash statement and maybe one that he might regret, because I think the onset of the modern manager in today's game has actually been one of the shop window items of the game. The popularity and the expertise that they've brought to the game, the excitement they've brought to the game. Yes, there's been a greater emphasis on the manager and the status of the manager. But also he's brought a lot of expertise. So yes, it is a problem. Yes, it has to be addressed, and I know Pádraig Duffy has outlined some options in doing that. It's where it goes from here. Now, I'm not so sure, Miriam, that it's at a crossroads, because yes, we will debate this, and this has come up over the last 10 or 15 years, but I'm not so sure in 5 years' time, if we sit down here again, will we still be at option one, which is to do nothing.
What's your view, Liam?
Well, I think, from my point of view, on a personal basis, I wouldn't pay a manager, I wouldn't pay a player. I'd make every club be self-sufficient with their own management, because there's a lot of nonsense talked in some clubs about the necessity for an outside manager. And in the counties, I'd like to do the same. And then you do the same rules for the players as you would have for management. But that's utopia now. That's all gone. That's changed. The whole thing has changed. So the GAA are right, in my opinion, to regularise it and to try and bring some debate here. I think it's the mature thing to do. You can't have this non-stop suggestions that there's managers driving Porsches around the place and having holidays in the Seychelles. That's not happening. They're getting basic expenses, and there are some of them getting slightly more. But it does need to be regularised. The debate needs to happen, and we need to come up with something, a solution. And that is either we stay as we are, completely amateur, or we have to embrace the changes that are necessary. This is the new reality. Just
before I bring Mark in, in your own personal experience, did you both feel that, in a sense, you deserve to be paid, that for what you did as managers, you should have been paid?
Well, I think what we've got to do, Miriam, is look at the development and evolvement of the manager over the years. It has changed massively in the last 20 years, certainly from my playing days and the managers that I had to management now. And they have to have so many facets and such a big skill set of management in terms of managing a management team. And in the voice pop there is mentioned about physios, doctors, statisticians, video analysts, doctors, psychologists, psychiatrists, the whole lot. Then they have to manage a team. Then they have to manage the media and all the pressures.
So the answer is yes, you feel you should have been paid?
Absolutely. It's an expertise now. Management is an expertise.
No, I was never paid, and I wouldn't want to be paid. And if I was to go back again tomorrow morning, I wouldn't accept payment. But that's a personal decision of mine. And I come from Wexford. I'm proud of where I come from. I wanted to work on behalf of my own county for so many historical reasons and for the passion of the game. But a lot of counties don't have a manager from their own county, so why should a manager be brought in from another county to train this county and then not seek remuneration?
Mark Duncan, what's your view on this?
Well, first of all, I think Pádraig Duffy should be commended for focusing attention on a subject matter where there is very little hard evidence, but innuendo and rumour has run rife. Now, there is a telling admission, though, in his document. There is a line in there which acknowledges that no matter what the GAA does, it is incapable of controlling individuals, a group of individuals making unregulated payments to managers. So therefore the question is, should we sacrifice a core principle when we don't draw a line under the problem we're hoping to address? If anything, I think you're going to just aggravate the problem of unregulated payments to managers, because it doesn't address the issue at lower levels. And once you introduce a culture of payment, you're basically legitimising the payment culture within the GAA at all levels.
But you're sitting here now opposite two GAA managers, former managers, right? They both feel managers, you both, I think, I don't want to misinterpret, both feel that going forward managers will have to be paid. Is that correct?
Yes, if the GAA want to do something, Miriam, they're going to have to do that. And already, sorry Mark, but already we do have a payment culture in the GAA. We are paying everybody but the manager at the minute and but the players. Everybody that stands in a changing room on a Sunday afternoon, but the manager and the player is getting paid. And that's from doctors to physios to statistician to video people. So we have allowed this to happen. So why are we now isolating the manager who has an expertise on his own and not issue him some financial reward. And I don't, I don't take the point that, yes, managers can do it for free and can do it in their own counties, and traditionally they do, but you cross the line and you take on the pressures and the responsibilities, then there should be remuneration.
Tommy, I'm not in favour of isolating managers, but I'm not in favour of making an exception of them. I think when you look at the GAA, managers certainly bring a huge skill set to it. They certainly do a remarkable job and take on an onerous workload. But in the context of the GAA, it's not exceptional. For every manager at intercounty level and hurling and football, there are scores of club secretaries and club chairmen who take over running clubs with anything from 8 to 80 teams, who look after building developments, who forge links with schools, who look after child welfare guidelines. You know, in short, this is running a small or medium-sized business, so it's not exceptional. I wouldn't make an exception of the GAA.
Yeah, I completely agree with the sentiments of Mark. They're absolutely. How could you not disagree? I'm a volunteer myself all my life. But we have to deal with the new reality. The new reality is that managers have been paying. But one of the most important issues is that the GAA is going slowly broke in many counties at the moment. And the reason for that is because there's uncontrolled expenses. Now, I'm involved in business. You could not run a business in this way. And what's happening is managers can set their own agenda in many cases where they're doing training, getting so much. But they have an entourage with them, which you know, Tommy has referred to. And that entourage is being paid. But the manager decides there's 3 more training nights in the week. Everybody on board comes along again, so it's uncontrolled. So the GAA are absolutely right. Address the issue and confront it one way or the other.
But what about the whole notion that it is an amateur organisation, and the whole ethos and the whole maybe success of the GAA today, that it's loved everywhere, is that it is like that, and it's like a Pandora's box, a slippery slope till you use every cliche in the book. If you start paying managers, you destroy it.
But it's not strictly an amateur organisation. We have moved away from amateurism for about the last 10 or 15 years. The president of the association is now paid for the job. He wasn't paid in the 1990s. Why? Because it has developed and it has evolved over the years, where his responsibilities now demand a remuneration and he's full-time. The same thing has happened with managers. It has evolved and developed where the job itself and the responsibilities therein require almost a full-time commitment.
Do you think players should be paid?
I think players should be remunerated in kind, and when I say that, Miriam, no, I think we don't want to go down the professional level in terms of players. We don't want to do that.
But can you have the only people in the dressing room not being paid then be the players?
But it's already, my point is, it's already been done. Okay. So that is already happening. And players don't have an issue. All the players are worried about is that everything is laid on for them. Yeah,
this is going to inevitably lead to that debate. But you must remember as well, the GAA has moved on now so far that people don't really realise that. County secretaries, it's a full-time job now. It absolutely is. But what we are looking at is the next phase of the new argument that's going to come, that players need to get paid. Now, I've always supported the Gaelic Players Association. I should continue to do so. But when we go for pay for play, that really is the next massive debate that would cause mayhem for clubs and counties.
Well, I think, you know, you can't open the door to semi-professionalism and then walk back through it. International evidence and the examples of other sports show that once you actually go down the route of semi-professionalism, you go the full way.
Mark, we've gone there.
Well, I find it inconceivable that you can pay managers and sometime down the road you're not going to have players.
But Mark, what you're trying to do now is you're trying to put the tide out again. The tide has come in. I'm on your side. But it's, listen, Mark, we're too late. It's gone. It's happened. It's done. They've been paying them for 20 years. We have to row it back. So now we've got one choice: row it back or control it and organise it. And I think we're into that area, in that space now.
Well, I think we actually have a problem here at the moment, as I said, is because GAA members are openly flouting GAA rules. Changing the rules is not going to ensure greater compliance. So I don't think we're going to deal with the problem at all by regulating a system of payments to managers.
But we're not in a position to implement the rules as they stand at the minute. And if we take option 2, which I think it is, Miriam, to implement the rules as they stand, that is not going to happen. We will have this discussion in 2 years' time and 10 years' time again, because no matter what happens in this country, and we know how the GAA operates, it operates on a basis of clientelism and patronage and payments here and payments there, and there is a huge hunger for success with clubs, with counties, and is 30, 40, 50,000 going to stop them trying to achieve that?
Is there also the problem?
Well, can I just say, this is probably the first time in 3 years there's been a discussion in this studio which is centred on an organisation increasing expenditure. Liam has rightly pointed out that there are chronic problems when you get down to county levels. Already the costs of running inter-county teams and panels are unsustainable. In recent weeks and months we've seen county boards record crippling losses. Wexford only a couple of weeks ago have a €3 million debt.
Okay,
how do you go about introducing new levels of pay?
Interestingly about this, I was involved in the appointment of the new Wexford hurling manager, Liam Dunn. he lost his job the week he was appointed as manager of Wexford, and he's now unemployed. So, like, he's going to get his expenses and so forth. But my forecast is, and I don't like it, is that in 3 years' time, most county managers will have some form of new remuneration. And if it's regulated and it's above board and it's done correctly, we may not have major amounts to fear because we've already gone that far. And the only worry I have is the next phase then, is that going to knock on to the players being paid? And if it does, how are we going to handle that? Because that is the big issue at that stage. OK,
and one of the points here also, Miriam, we're talking about the manager as we see him on the TV nowadays. The manager in any county should be in there with a job spec and a contract. We go on about contracts in the GA. I've never seen a contract for a manager in any county. So let's give him a contract, let's give him a job, let's give him a job spec, which is to the advantage of the county, the association and the players within. So he is there not alone to work with the senior team, but to implement structures, proper strength conditioning programmes and other types of structures within schools and clubs.
I think if you see the GAA as nothing more than an inter-county manager and players, there's a complete logic to what Tommy is saying. But it's not. It's built on a massive voluntary effort. But no player goes into a county, no manager creates the county players that he works with. They're created from a club system, which is voluntary based.
We have a problem in finance. Give the manager a budget and make him live within it, like we all have to do it in business, because now it's unravelled all the way and it's uncontrolled. OK, gentlemen, I'd like to discuss this for the next half hour, but I'm not allowed because I've got to introduce another film, but we will come back to it. I didn't even get to talk about violence.